You're listening to the 412 podcast from FBC Mustang in Mustang, Oklahoma, where we take you behind the scenes as we equip the saints for the work of the ministry. I'm Jeremy Davis, your host. Let's get started. What is it that you're looking forward to the most?
Great chance to get to know people better.
It is an absolute madhouse.
I try to find a place with good salads.
So 3 sermons a day.
I never did youth ministry, mainly because I'm scared.
It feels good up here.
We run to the woods thinking, Lord, take my life. I'm done.
Often how I prepare my own heart. I'm looking and reading and thinking.
We had students in the room, 6th through 12th graders, singing at the top of their lungs the doxology.
The engine that is pulling the train should be truth.
I like it.
I like it too.
Okay.
Welcome back to the pod, everyone, and welcome to some podcast veterans, John Brewer and Olivia Travis. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Glad you guys are here.
We're glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the Passion Mission Trip, which is something we do every year, not every summer, every spring. So it was a few weeks ago now, since we were gone, and went to the great state of Texas. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great republic.
Yeah, the great Republic of Texas. And you were just using this as a good excuse to go down to Texas for a week, right?
I'll take any opportunity that I can.
Olivia, what are your feelings for Texas?
Go Texas.
Go Texas.
Oklahoma. I don't really care.
Oh, okay. All right. That's
That's the
good.
most Olivia answer.
Well, I
That
don't.
is-
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. Glad
Yeah.
to serve the Lord wherever.
Okay, there you go. That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Great answer. All right, so John, tell us, first of all, how did you arrive on going to Texas for the Passion Mission Trip?
Well, unlike Olivia, there was nothing spiritual about it. She would want to say that God led us there through.
That is so not true.
Well, you just had a way of just even now making me feel completely unspiritual.
Sorry.
Being excited to go to Texas, you're like, I don't care. Wherever the Lord is at work is where I want to be. And I look at it more pragmatically and practically in that there are only a few parts of the country that we can go in March and have somewhat of a realistic expectation for decent weather.
That's true.
We've tried going west to Colorado, and that was a nightmare. And then we've done northern states, and not like far north, but north from here. It just gets cold, and you have rain and snow. And so we can either go east or we can go south. And we did Memphis last year, and so south was our next option.
Very good.
And so just explore. We've never been to Austin. I had actually never been to Austin. I'm a Texas native, and I had never even been there.
You've never been? That was your first time in the city of
other
Austin?
than the airport, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I mean, it's a big state.
I mean, it is.
It's like 4 European countries or something
I know.
like that.
It's such a big state. Some may call it a country.
Well, I still do, but Olivia would chastise me.
Whatever. It's because you're from Texas.
Yeah.
So where in Texas are you from?
I'm from West Texas.
West Texas. Odessa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Lubbock.
Yeah.
Olivia, where are you from?
Mustang, Oklahoma.
Mustang, Oklahoma.
That's where I'm from.
Okay.
Anyways, back to Texas. We
It is a great place, and I really am glad that you went there. But on more of a serious note, tell us about just the passion trip in general. What is your intent behind it, and why is this such an important trip that you want to go on every year?
Well, I think it's a great picture of how music can be used in one of the roles of the church. Music can be used for worship. Music can be used for edification and within the church.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things, but it can also be used for outreach.
Yeah.
And so Passion kind of leads the way in terms of our music ministry as to what that can look like, because it just naturally, with their age, and a trip like that lends itself to just taking music in the marrying it with the gospel and using that to go and proclaim Christ to people. And what I love about it, and what I often say, is that music opens up the doors in these mission contexts in ways that would not otherwise be available to someone.
Right.
For example, we went to a juvenile detention center, and you would not really realistically be able to take 100 students or 100 people into a juvenile detention center for any kind of ministry unless you have something like music as your entry point.
Right.
And so that's why I love these type of trips, and they take on their own unique identity because there are no other trips available where you can do those types of things. And so I love giving our students unique mission opportunities. They love the music. It does a lot for us as a group to bring unity, but going on a trip is also just a hook for people to participate and be a part of the ministry, and they've loved it and bought into it, and it's something that we look forward to every year.
Now, Olivia, you were obviously very involved in the back end and a lot of the organization of the trip. You are our director of communication on staff here at the church, but also you are John's administrative assistant. That's a big part of what you do as well. How many people went on the Passion Mission trip?
What did we end up with? 80-some students, 85 students maybe, and close to 100, including our adults and drivers and everyone that helped.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's 6th through 12th graders.
Yes.
Okay. And you have to be at a certain percentage of rehearsals and all those kinds of things. Correct?
Yes, you were supposed to attend. You had the opportunity to miss 2 rehearsals if it was more than that. It was kind of a touch-and-go type of basis, but the emphasis there is that we wanted students to be not only informed of what we were singing and be knowledgeable, to not be a distraction with the music we were singing, but to have a heart that was prepared and ready to lead on a trip like this.
Yeah. So what does rehearsal look like? I've been to adult choir rehearsals. I've gotten to lead a couple of those rehearsals, but for a passion rehearsal, John, do you do it very similar to your adult choir, or is it different?
I'm not creative or talented enough to make it much different than what I know how to do with adult choir. Honestly, they're intentionally very similar.
Yeah.
Because I want our students, once they leave Passion, to come into our adult choir and for it not to be a culture shock.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be too different in my approach, mainly because even though they're youth, I still want us to take our job and role seriously. And so I don't want to make it overly silly or overly, not a lot of use of games, things like that. No, we'll have fun. We'll do some stuff. But I find myself, honestly, I'll throw out there some conversation topics or some quick games, and I often find myself repeating those in adult choir and then vice versa. And so, honestly, they're not a whole lot different. But truly, when we get into the spring semester, we only have 8 to 10 rehearsals, and sometimes those get canceled because of weather that time of year.
Yeah.
And so it is honestly pretty quick pace to try to learn a big bulk of music. And so we do more fellowship type stuff in the fall than we actually do in the spring. In the spring, we're trying to plug away and get all of that music learned.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, maturity level between your adult choir and your passion choir, it's got to be pretty similar, about on par.
Especially with our tenors. They're about the same as our 7th grade boys.
Yeah,
so.
I believe that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that works. So it's, you just from one right into the other.
Yeah, the altos talk equally as much
we do.
as the altos in Passion.
I absolutely believe that.
There's a lot of carryover.
Yeah, my wife's one of them, so I believe that.
Well, and Olivia's been, and the unique aspect of her being on staff is she has grown up in the music ministry here.
Yeah.
And served in Passion, but also served in adult choir. How did you find that transition for you?
It's a long answer. Are you ready for the transition? The transition.
Right.
I didn't think it was really anything different than I had previously experienced. I think that in Passion, like I just said, there's a huge emphasis on preparing our hearts, not only preparing music. So, I mean, that emphasis is just as clear in adult choir as it was in Passion. So moving from the youth ministry, worship ministry things to adult worship ministry things, there really wasn't much of a change. I mean, we worked on things that were a little bit more difficult musically, and I think you challenged us spiritually a little bit more because we were just further along in our walks of faith, but there wasn't a big shift or change that I was like, oh, it's serious in adult choir and I have to stop being how I was. It was just the same, moving from one to another.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and so we do new member meetings all the time as people are joining the church. And recently I was having one of those. I was having a conversation with them, and they're asking about some different areas to get involved and some great places to jump in. And I immediately tell them, like, you should go join the adult choir. Like, this is a great place to get plugged in. John's a great music leader and stuff. So then they're talking about, okay, just some places to grow and learn some things. I said, okay, this sounds funny, but adult choir is a great place to go do that, because you're going to learn about why we sing the songs that we sing, and the scripture that's behind them and what it means. And John's always teaching while he's in there, and said, okay, that's great. What are some places that we could get to know some people? And I said, okay, I'm not just trying to promote one thing this whole time. This is not my intent. John didn't pay me. But adult choir is a great place to go and learn people and get to know people, because the altos just talk the whole time. So they're all
Talk
chit-chatting.
most of the time, not all the time.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that support. There are great ministries outside of music ministries you
absolutely.
can get plugged into for sure. But we do try to make it something that is meaningful and helpful in your Christian walk, not just a matter of learning notes and rhythms for the sake of Sunday morning.
Yeah. So Olivia, so you grew up in the church. You were in Passion Choir, and I had a similar experience. I grew up in Passion. In fact, the reason my wife and I ever met each other is because I joined Passion Choir, and that led to an opportunity to audition for a statewide all-state choir. So obviously Passion's very important and meaningful for us just in that aspect. But for you, going from being a student to watching Passion for a few years, and then getting to a point to where now you're working behind the scenes and getting to help plan the trip. You're responsible for students on the trip. You have to tell them to go to bed and be their boss and all those things. What's that been like? Not just transitioning into being an adult, but just kind of going from being a partaker in the ministry to now being somebody that's helping produce the ministry.
For sure. I think it's given me a ton of perspective in, I'll start with like the backside planning and stuff. It requires so much work.
Yeah.
And it is joyful work, but it is long work. And it has given me perspective of how many hours and how many phone calls were put into all the trips that I got to participate in as a student. And it gave me a greater appreciation for those who planned the trip, those who go as sponsors. But it also gave me great perspective and appreciation for the fact that as a young person, I was able to easily participate in missions locally and be a physical tool of the Lord and be the hands and feet of Him and be able to deliver the gospel and practice evangelism skills at a youthful age. I feel like a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And so being on the backside of that, it's definitely given me that perspective and a great appreciation and understanding of what I was able to do as a youth student. But as far as like the practical side of going on the trip and telling kids, yes, you have to brush your teeth, or yes, you have to eat or go to sleep or whatever, I don't think I found it all that difficult. It was easy for me to sympathize with them, knowing that, well, I've been exactly where they've been, and I'm tired too, but we're going to keep going and we're going to keep pushing, and knowing that though we might be uncomfortable for time, we know it's for a greater purpose, for kingdom work, and that we should be okay with that.
Yeah, that's great.
Whenever we were starting to plan, and I tasked Olivia to make a lot of phone calls for me, and she had made this statement. She's like, just what she just described, I'd never realized how much work went into this. She said, as a student, just kind of felt like you just showed up, and I mean, all you had to do was call a ministry. They said, sure, and then you just show up and do it.
Right.
And she's like, I never realized how much logistical planning you have to think through when you're trying to move a unit of 100 people and make sure that you have enough for them to do, but they also have to eat, and they have to go to the bathroom, and you have to transport them, and there are all of these things that you have to consider. So if you're in a place and there's no public restrooms, now what are you going to do? And so we have to think through a lot of logistical things, but the joy of being on this side of it is that we want to serve in such a way that it feels that way for our students.
Right.
We want it to be easy. They are giving up a week of their spring break. What an incredible thing for students to be doing. I'm always impressed by that. They could be skiing, they could be going to the beach, but they are choosing to go and sleep on church floors, use, in this case, shower trailers, and get little rest and have a blast. But also, it's hard, and they're serving, and we want to honor that. We recognize that adults are taking time off from work, vacation time, to go and serve, and so we want it to be as seamless as possible, knowing that once we get there, there's still going to be things that we have to figure out on the ground. But it does require a lot of work, and having a partner in planning and executing it, all of that through Olivia has been a huge blessing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the average person thinks about just the logistics of planning a vacation for their family, now you multiply that by 100 people and trying to maneuver, and just the bus ride down there, just that one aspect of itself takes hours and hours to coordinate.
Sure.
Okay, so talk about a little bit about the schedule. What were some things that you did, and maybe some highlights of the trip?
Well, I can walk you through each of the things, but we left on a Saturday and hit the ground running on Sunday. Normally, as it's just worked out over the past few years, on Sunday we're often in a church that is our host church, and we're helping lead worship there. But this year was uniquely different in that regard. We were at a homeless service under the bridge of I-35 in downtown Austin, and so we literally just set up under a bridge. It's exactly what it sounds like, and did a church service with an existing ministry down there. We were the ones that provided the music. Joey preached, and we did another homeless ministry that afternoon. Throughout the week, we partnered with just various independent ministries or organizations. So some people think that when we go on a trip like this, we just partner with one person and they kind of plan all of our stuff that we're doing, but that's not how we design these trips, because we want to give our students as many types of experiences as they can get, as many, as wide of a swath of ministries to participate in.
Yeah.
And so we sang for children that have been abused and neglected. Most of these children that we saw that day had been institutionalized already at least 3 times before they come to that facility. And so there's some serious, very serious needs that they have.
Yeah.
And that was unique for us. We did 2 concerts at a juvenile detention center. We sang for a ministry with that had adults with special needs. We sang for a local church congregation in the inner city on one of the nights. We partnered with kind of a hands and feet type mercy ministry where we packed cars full of groceries for the week for their families. And we had, what was the number? It was over 400 different households that we served that morning. We did a concert for them as they were waiting for their turn. So we were able to sing for them. So those were the types of things that we do.
Yeah, that's cool. What would be like your favorite thing, or maybe something very memorable that happened on this trip specifically?
I think my favorite concert was the second concert we did on this whole trip. It was at a homeless camp that had been organized very well. Someone had come in and built these tiny type of houses, and so we had it's not really a concert space, but there's this space for us to be in, and we were actually partnering with another ministry there. So as soon as we got there, it was very welcoming and very encouraging. I loved getting to see our students interact with the people, the residents there, because of course, some places we are not allowed to do that. Some places the music itself has to speak for itself, and that's how the gospel is shared. But at other places, we're able to have one-on-one conversations with people. So I would say that is my favorite ministry. It was great to see our students branch out and speak to people and evangelize and just share life with them, and then get to encourage them through song, through music, and to have those residents participate. We had great participation from those people, and that's really encouraging to me, and I know it was encouraging to our students also.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, and this is true anytime we get this opportunity, I always particularly love the Juvenile Detention Center concerts. I can't say for sure that this is rock bottom for them, but it's probably pretty close. And that makes for a unique ministry opportunity. They are more inclined to be receptive to something you might have to say, if they're ever going to be receptive to it at all. Sometimes they are hardened to it and don't have any care or concern for what you're saying. Sometimes they're just there to get out of their normal routine, of which they're forced to be in. But what I love about it is for our students, it's peer-on-peer ministry. It's not peer to adult or peer to younger children. It is peer-to-peer. These are students that are their age, and I love when we get that opportunity. I love it because it's hard. It's intimidating. It is probably the the highest level of quote unquote persecution that we will face on a trip like that, if we're going to face any.
Sure.
Because you will experience some mocking, you'll experience some rolled eyes, some lack of attention. Other places, they're glad that you were there. For these, you may have a mixed bag, and some may not be glad that you're there. Some are acting out in defiance that you're there. So it's hard, which I'm grateful for, because our students need that in a controlled environment, because it helps build up their spiritual fortitude. So when they come back and share the gospel, they have some experiences to rely on where it didn't go so well. I love it because the audience has nothing to give you.
Mm-hmm.
We go to other places and you get all sorts of interaction, and they're super excited, and they're standing, they're clapping, they're swaying, that gives an emotional buzz for you.
Sure.
Which is fun, and it's good to enjoy those moments. But in this situation, you don't necessarily get that.
Yeah.
And so that forces you to not rely on that, and instead truly just depend on the Lord to do His work in the lives of these young men and ladies that were there. And then lastly, for me, I love sharing the gospel in those situations, because you see some people, it's very much a microcosm of what you will find in the world, all in one room. You will have some people that do not even look up at you. You have some people that are aware that you're talking, but completely disinterested.
Yeah.
And you have some that are locked in and nodding their heads as you're talking. And I love seeing that all visually represented right there.
Yeah.
Because it is a reminder that ultimately we are not the ones responsible for the Spirit's work in someone's life. We are just responsible to be faithful to share the gospel regardless of their response. And that is on display and put forward for us all to see when we go into that environment.
Yeah, and what a great training opportunity. And I think throughout all of our music ministry, you're slowly introducing things about life and ministry, from the smallest preschoolers in our church all the way to our senior adults. And in Kinder Praise, they're beginning to learn how to work with a group and follow instructions and prepare for something. In Kids Praise, you see that start to grow some, and they have unique roles, and maybe they're preparing in different ways. So there's some people that have some solos, and so these guys are going to play drums on the ground and different things. And then they get to present that to the church. They get to minister to the church and lead worship in that way. And then into Passion, they do that at a greater level, and the standards are higher. The requirements are higher. They get exposure to the global church and opportunities for missions in that way, while still serving our church. And then in adult choir, something that I've heard you emphasize in there is just the way that this is a part of our everyday life. Like, this is just a part of who we are, that we are people who sing, people who worship. We encourage one another through this, through life's trials. We can look at somebody else who's walked through this, and when we join in corporate worship with them, we can be encouraged by the fact that they're singing and giving glory to God, and after they've walked through things. And so while I'm going through a similar situation or something hard of my own, I can do the same. I sent this to you earlier, but I read a Charles Spurgeon quote this morning. It says, "Praise is the rehearsal of our eternal song. By grace we learn to sing, and in glory we continue to sing," which is just a reminder that one day all of this is leading to us giving that eternal praise and just singing forever to God our Father, who has saved us and redeemed us, who has orchestrated all things for our benefit and for His glory. What an incredible thing to get to be a part of, even now. And I have to commend you, because I feel like you do such a great job of training even the smallest, what you call our smallest worship leaders, training them from that point all the way up through the rest of their life, and even giving them music and song, preparing them for the end of their life and for the end. And I love that about our church, and love that about our worship ministry.
Well, thank you. Music is such a gift from the Lord, because it serves so many roles in the life of the believer, but also, as we see on this trip, it is it tears down walls. It is a community builder. Just the aspect of music it's a universal language.
Yeah. And
when we can partner that with truths of the gospel, it makes for a unique ministry environment.
Yeah.
And that's why I love these trips so much.
Absolutely. Okay. So last question. Give us the funniest thing that you you saw while you're on the trip, something funny that happened. I mean, you're on a trip with 80 middle school, high school students. Something funny happened, I'm sure. Not to mention the volunteers that you take. Some of them are characters as well. So what's something funny, some comedic that happened on the trip?
I think the funniest thing to me involved people that didn't even come with our church. So as John mentioned just a minute ago, we had to use shower trailers for this trip, and they actually ended up working out perfectly, and it was truly a blessing in disguise from the Lord. But the volunteers who ran these shower trailers, sweet as sweet could be, they're from churches local to the Austin area, and they are part of senior adult ministry.
Yeah.
And so these people were the funniest thing to me. They came in and were particular. They needed their coffee hot every morning, but were so joyful and were invested in our students. And these are just people that are running the showers, but recognized kingdom work and recognized the value of young people doing those things. And they were very sweet and so helpful. And so I just found that comical that they were such characters, each of them, and they actually ended up coming to participate for the last concert we did, the one that we sang for a local congregation in downtown Austin. They came and wanted to be a part just to see what the Lord was doing and see how hard our students had worked for it and just recognize all that the Lord has done for us. So I think that probably cracked me up the most.
That's great.
I have two moments for me. One was on our last night. We went to a really nice place for dinner. Beautiful views over the lake. It was really one of a kind place. And me and Joey found ourselves at a table of sixth grade boys. And you combine being a sixth grade boy with being deliriously tired from the week, and at the end of the day and end of the trip, and they were roasting somebody just for fun, and unbeknownst to them, Joey had Googled or ChatGPT just one-liner roasts. Yeah. And so every chance he could, he would just look down at his phone and just sneak one into the conversation, and they were uncontrollable laughing. And I was just rolling watching all of it take place, and that for me was hilarious. My other was when we were walking back from, we let them go shopping just as a kind of free activity, and we were all trying to head back to the bus. We rounded this corner, and one of our high school students, it was exactly like you would see, like on an Instagram reel or on a movie. He had turned to say something to his friend, and straight up, right in the middle of his forehead, walked into a pole.
Oh, no.
And not many people saw it, but some people in the restaurant saw it, and I saw them see it. And for me, I could not stop laughing at that. And so it was fun. There was a lot of fun moments that come just from all being together for so long, just conversations that come up and personalities that are at play. But those are just a couple of highlights for me.
That's excellent. Well, I appreciate all the hard work that goes into it. Not just you two, but I know JR's a part of that, and a number of our church members, adults who are going as volunteers, giving up their spring breaks as well. But we're grateful for all of you. Grateful for the students to give up their spring break to go and be a part of it. Thank you guys for being on another episode. It's always a joy to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Well, very good. All right. Well, listener, thank you so much for joining us once again for the 412 podcast. We can't wait to join you again here in a couple weeks. We'll see you. This podcast is made possible by the members of First Baptist Mustang. This podcast is produced by John Osmus, our Director of Media, artwork by Olivia Travis, Director of Communications, and music by Pastor John Brewer, Worship Pastor here at FBC Mustang. For more information about First Baptist Church in Mustang, you can go to fbcmustang.org. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the 412 podcast.